Welcome back everybody to another Age of Sigmar video. Today we're going to be talking about the Khorne Battletome updates that they have been revealed, because this is actually a pretty significant difference for how the faction's going to play. This is big news, and it's not just important for Khorne players, because now we're seeing 3 Battletomes in a row that have massive changes. For Idoneth Deepkin, for the Karajan Overlords, and then now for the Blades of Khorne players. And that means that if your favorite army does not have a Battletome yet, that you can expect it to be a significant shakeup over the faction pack that you're currently playing with. And so let's take a look at what Khorne got, why they've changed so much, and why that's maybe not a bad thing, or maybe it's more of a flavor thematic thing, and kind of speculate on, what this means for everybody else. So, with the mortal realms consumed by eternal war, the followers of Khorne are always having a good time. And so this is a really important first sentence, because basically Khorne is supposed to be battle crazy, no magic, just fighting, killing, and all that, fun stuff. But what they actually were in execution, because they had an ability called Murder Lust, which allowed you to spend blood tithe points that you got every time one of your units died or one of your opponent's units died, and you could spend those to do a movement, and it really messed people up. Like, if you played against Khorne and you weren't super practiced at it, then you'd be like, well, I'm going to, charge you, but then they would murder lust into your charge, or they would use it to reposition so that you couldn't shoot at them, or get a battle tactic, or whatever it was, because you could move into combat with it as well. So it was an incredibly techy and, like brain heavy style of play, because you really needed to know how exactly you could best use this movement. And when somebody gets into Age of Sigmar, they start to fall in love with the setting and all the armies, and they get, maybe they see Khorne and they're like, that's it, that's what I'm gonna play. They're imagining just like, I'm gonna go in and fight, which they did do that, but like they had this like really techie side to them. So what has changed? Blood tithe points still get generated every single time a unit is destroyed, yours or your opponent's. However, instead of spending points on abilities, you now spend them on a skill tree. It's also important to note that you have Murder Lust right off the bat. You don't have to spend any points. You can use it on turn 1 with nobody dead, but it has changed. It's a different ability now. So Murder Lust, you can only do it once per turn, okay, army, and so that means you can do it on your opponent's turn, and it's when you've charged or countercharged. So roll a dice. You can replace one of the dice in your charge roll with that value, and if you do, then you can inflict D3 mortal damage on the unit that uses the charge ability. So basically, if somebody needs to push through a charge, you can replace your bad dice with it. And if you don't replace the dice because you get a bad roll, you're not taking damage. And so this is like once every turn, you have a better chance of charging and getting into combat. It is no longer this techie move that can be used multiple times, like, and you can, well, not multiple, but like, you could use it like many times over the course of a game and threaten the use of it is the other part of that. Not necessarily use it, but threaten the use of it if your opponent is kind of picking up on it. So that's a huge change. Okay, here's the other thing, is that you have this tree, and so you can go in either branch, and you can go back and pay for branches, and you can unlock these abilities. There's some passives, there's some actual abilities that you get to use. The different branches, as you move up, they cost different amounts, and this is so cool. This makes me think of the Idoneth Deepkin, where they have those 2 different tidal paths that they like, the water, the storm, and the ocean or something, I don't know, and they can go on these paths, and every turn they get a new effect, and then they can go and restart at the other path, and they can go to they jump back and forth, and the game is customizable based on what you're seeing in front of you. This is very much the case too. So let's say you have an opponent that a certain path is going to be really effective against. You can tech into that space, or maybe the game changes in a way you didn't expect and you really need a certain thing. You can tech into that area, and the cool thing is all these are unlocked, and so basically the longer the battle goes on, the stronger you get. And similarly, the more of your models that your opponent kills, the more powerful you're going to get. And there's even more to come with that. But let's take a look at some of the other abilities. So we've got Divine Scorn, which you use at the start of any turn, once per turn. And you can choose up to 3 enemy wizards or priests within 6 inches of any of your units. And you can roll a dice and subtract the power level from them. It's a 3-up as well, so it's a good roll. And by the way, these abilities have such rad icons on them. They're so badass. So there's other things here like Revel in Battle, which costs 3 blood tithe points. And other than companion weapon abilities, weapon abilities for combat attacks made by enemy units do not, that charged by the way, do not get to have an effect. So if you have something like, you know, crit mortals, that's a weapon ability, or another thing that could be like well, I was gonna say anti-wizard, but there's no wizards in Khorne, but it could be anti-hero or something, and that's not going to take any effect. So that is really powerful. And then we have on the other side of that branch is Murder the Mystic, which you pick 4 enemy manifestations to be the targets. There's no range stated there. You make a 2d6 banishment roll for each of them. And if you can equal or exceed that banishment value, then you'll banish it. They put another effect in here, but you banish it first of all, unless it has protection against being banished and you deal damage to it. But you also inflict D3 mortal damage to each enemy unit within 3 inches of it. So this is an AoE attack on things that are near manifestations, and you can banish them. So very, very cool. Lots of applications there, depending on what your opponent is actually playing. And it fits really into the like, well, I don't want to bring, you know, too much magic and have to like spend time trying to banish it. It's like, no, you're going to use your faction ability. And so it says at the very top tier, Slaughter Triumphant grants all units that charge an extra attack and then cleave wide the Grin of Khorne will add 1 to hit rolls for all combat attacks that you make. So those are insanely powerful effects at the top, but keep in mind that a lot of these effects say that you must have taken the punish, like, you know, you must have taken Punish the Pacifist. So if we look at this, like, I'm curious, you might not be able to take Slaughter Triumphant unless you've taken both Glorious Combat or not and Murder the Mystic. I'm not sure if exactly that's how it's going to work, but that's what it seems like to me. And so in that case, it might be good to go into that middle path, knowing that you can spend to unlock either side with your next, you know, thing. But if you do that, right, if we unlock like Slaughter Triumphant, that means that you're spending on the let's say on the left side, you spend 1 there on Divine Scorn, and then you spend another 4 on Murder and Glorious, so that's 5 total, and then another 4 on Slaughter Triumphant. So at that point, you've killed, or 9 units have been destroyed, which is a lot. But maybe this means that Khorne players are going to be bringing more chaff units whatever, that are going to, these units aren't chafing yet, that are going to die. Like, you bring units that you know are going to die, you plug up areas, you take objectives, you score battle tactics, you don't care if they die. If people spend time on them, then, you know, great, you get powered up. Okay, awesome. So there's one other thing here. There's a Blood-drenched battle trait that just becomes activated. So once per battle, any hero phase, you have to use it if half of the number of units on both armies have been destroyed. So you add your unit number to your opponent's unit number, and then divided by 2, round up. If that many units have died, then you have the following effects that apply for the rest of the battle. And so there's 4 things here. So as soon as you get to that, you get 4 buffs. Just there it is. So you can ignore positive modifiers to save rolls. For Khorne units, that's not actually, sorry, that's not a buff. But it makes sense, right? Like if you're going all out at this point. I mean, it says right here, as blood gushes down blades, armor, and teeth, the fervent warriors of the Blood God are driven into a divine frenzy. So yeah, they're not worried about defending themselves. But we have Blood Haze, which is going to give crit mortals to bloodbound units. We have Weapons of Murder, which is 1 to rend for blood-hungry weapons used by Blades of Khorne non-monster demon units. including companion weapons for those guys. And then also Bloodlord's Supreme, which is 1 to damage characteristic of the blood hungry weapons used by the Blades of Khorne monster unit. So tons of freaking buffs. So this is going to be really crazy. So it also mentions that there's a weapon ability that is this blood hungry weapon. Like, it's going to be a new weapon ability that's exclusive to certain weapons equipped by certain Blades of Khorne units. And yeah, basically there's going to be even more buffs that kind of work with who's carrying blood hungry weapons. It also mentions that blood warriors are going to go from crit auto wound to crit mortal. So that's a huge, massive buff for them as well. Kind of turns them into like chosen in a way as well. So lots of buffs coming. This is really crazy for a few reasons. It changes, like I said, it changes the play style of this faction quite a bit. To be a late game powerhouse. But as long as you can charge into battle, if you're killing your opponent, if your own things are dying, you are becoming stronger and stronger and stronger. So maybe looking at what benefits most down the line and keeping them safe and then sacrificing everybody else is going to be the way to play this faction. And so I feel like some people might be bummed out about Murderlust changing, and I think that's totally reasonable and fair because it was a very powerful effect that could be used. But at the end of the day, this system is not only really cool, like really thematic, and just I love the choice. The amount of choice that you get per game to go through this tree is amazing. But it is really thematic to the play style that people are expecting of Khorne when they sign up to play that faction. When they go out and they buy their first box or spearhead or whatever they're getting, this is kind of what they're expecting. And I think any new player would be really happy with these rules, which means all that's left is for hopefully there to be some war scroll changes, some war scroll buffs to make them a little bit stronger, given that Murderlust has changed a bit. And I don't know if like there's going to be changes with survivability or whatever else, but this is all very, very, very fun, and it bodes well, like I said, for everybody else who has a faction that doesn't have a Battletome yet, that you're going to be getting a pretty big shakeup for the rules that you play. So enjoy the rules that you have now, because you won't have them forever. They will be changing. So that's going to be it for this video. I looked around online as well, by the way, to see kind of the reaction to this, and it seems like people were feeling really positive about it. Time will tell. People have to play the Battletome. They have to see the Battletome to see if it is going to be a big step in the right direction. But by all we can see from the preview, it looks really cool. So I'm curious, what do you think about this Battletome update? Even if you're not a Khorne player, how do you feel about it? If you're somebody that plays against Khorne, if your best friend is a Khorne player, and if you are a Khorne player, then all the more I want to hear your opinion and what you think about these changes. It makes me personally really excited to see the Lumineth Battletome, which I think is the next Battletome of the armies that I play that will get updated over Cities of Sigmar. I think Cities of Sigmar is going to be coming a little bit later in the edition. That's just my hunch, but I guess we'll find out. So otherwise, thanks for stopping by, for watching this video, and we'll see you all soon enough in another one.